Hello and welcome to another edition of Around the Valley. It's getting time. We're deep in the middle of homecoming season. It's just starting. Going to be homecoming almost every week for somebody. And we know that's Kenny's favorite time of season. And that's why I bring it up. We got a lot on the plate today. We're going to give you some look back to the week that just finished. We're going to look ahead here at week 6. Give you another little bit of taste of the flag football season as it's going. We've got plenty to go around. Enough there. I'm going to bring in Kenny. Kenny, how are you doing?
It's been a tough week. My Mets let me down. It was kind of tough the way the week rounded up. But you know what makes it feel better? Getting to talk about everything that's going on here in the Valley. Enough of disappointment. Let's talk about the action that's going on, everything that's happening in and around the Valley. We got upsets. We got some surprising results. We got some teams making statements that maybe we left them for dead a little too soon, and they still are who we thought they were. But without further ado, man, let's get right into it. As always, we start with the scoreboard final from week 5. Starting over at Van Nuys. Van Nuys with a big bounce back after that loss to Kennedy. They get back to their winning ways. They take down San Fernando 32-6. Carlos Herrera with another great performance. 2 touchdowns rushing, 2 TDs passing in that win over San Fernando as they improve to 5-1 and San Fernando falls to 4-2. Over at Reseda, we know the story. Reseda's rebuilding. They're trying to get back to a place where they can compete. But for now, Panorama goes in 31-0 final. Another business-like performance for Panorama. They improve to 5-1. Reseda falls to 0-5. Finish over, staying in the Valley Mission, we go over to Sylmar. Watch out for these Sylmar Spartans. They're starting to look really dangerous this year. They improved to 4-1, taking down the upstart Canoga Park 48-24 at home. Sylmar improves to 4-1. Canoga falls to 3-3. Tim Tanner Jr. with another great performance at quarterback for Sylmar. 12 of 18, 254 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns, another touchdown on the ground in that win over Canoga Park as they continue to look like a real contender. Now going over to the East Valley on Friday, our leader hosting Chavez. Chavez is scuffling, trying to figure it out. In the meantime, our leader takes advantage. They take down Chavez 41-0 in a shutout. Jose Roses with 134 all-purpose yards. Bell cow for that Mustangs offense. He had 3 TDs and that win over Chavez. Over at Monroe. Monroe improves to 3-2 as they take down Fulton 62-24 at home to get back to 1-1 in the East Valley. Over at Verdugo Hills, North Hollywood, the Huskies 2 in a row, improved to 9 straight going back to last season in the Valley, in the East Valley, as they take down Verdugo 38-16. Gavin Zamora, big day, 200 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns in that win over Verdugo Hills. At Poly, we had Grant coming into town to take on Poly. Poly takes the dub here, 42-24 to improve to 2-3 and 2-0 in the East Valley. George Flores, a sneaky candidate for East Valley Player of the Year, has played really well. He had 365 passing yards, 4 touchdown passes, another one rushing in that win over Grant. Heading back over to West Valley action, we had Crenshaw come in to take on Cleveland. Crenshaw takes the dub there, 34-23 over Cleveland. Cleveland put up a good fight. They got down big on the scoreboard, tried to fight back in the second half, but it was not enough as Crenshaw improves to 4-1 and Cleveland falls to 1-4. And last but not least, on Saturday night, Birmingham goes into Harvard Westlake. It was homecoming night for Harvard Westlake. They had the fireworks going. They had a carnival and the festival, and it turned into a funeral because Kevin Hawkins must have heard us talking about him needing to have a better performance. He goes out there and he takes care of business damn near single-handedly, leading that Birmingham attack 44-8 on the road. He even contributed on the defensive end with 3 sacks. It was a masterful performance by the Birmingham Patriots, making a statement heading into their league play. So before we talk about the action. Let's give a quick update on the standings. And as now we are officially at the part of the season where all the leagues will get underway. But the two leagues who are underway, the East Valley, our leader, North Hollywood and Poly, are all sitting at 2-0 in the league to begin the league play. Verduga Hills and Monroe are behind them at 1-1 apiece. And Chavez, Grant, and Fulton are all 0-2 in the league, still looking for their first wins. Over in the Valley Mission, Panorama sitting at 2-0. Kennedy and Sylmar are 1-0 behind them. Van Nuys, San Fernando are sitting at 1-1 in the league, and Canoga Park and Reseda are 0-2. West Valley League gets underway this week. So let's talk a little bit about the takeaways from week 5. We saw, as we just laid out with the scores, we saw what Birmingham did. We saw some statements made between Birmingham and North Hollywood. We saw some teams who bounced back and get to a winning way. So what was the biggest takeaway for you for week 5, Usher?
100% it was that Birmingham beatdown at Harvard West. Like, we talked about it, and we were pretty clear on what needed to happen to send a message to the rest of that league. And if you ask me, message that, like, the Kings are the Kings till someone beats the Kings. And they've been the kings of that league. They've been the team that just does not give anything to the other 5 teams there at all. They came close a couple times. There's been moments where it was, hold your breath, hold your heart, went down to the final seconds. But it hasn't happened in a very long time. And Saturday night, they showed why. They were like, this is us. Kevin Hawkins had the kind of game we've been talking that he needs to have to kind of be that guy to lead that program. And ultimately, that was the one I was focusing on the most. That's that takeaway. Like, they came, they sent a message, and if that is what's going to come the next 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, everyone else is in trouble.
Yeah, and that's my biggest takeaway as well. Like I said, his numbers on offense, while they're not eye-popping, they were exactly what, if you envisioned this version, this 2025 version of Birmingham to be their best, is, okay, 4 for 5 for 79 yards and 2 touchdown passes. What that tells you is he did just enough keeping the other team off balance, because when you're talking about the combination of him and Braylon Morgan in that backfield, Braylon Morgan also had a $157 on the ground in that game and 3 TDs. Like, you have to put 7, 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. We know they got all that size up front on that line. The only way you stop these guys from running you over is you got to pack the box. Okay, and if they're going to pack the box, eventually you run into some teams that got a little bit better size. Harvard Westlake looked puny out there on Saturday night compared to what Birmingham brings you up front. But, man, okay, well, now we're getting into West Valley play. There's going to be some guys who are going to be able to get some penetration. There's going to be some guys when they get into the postseason that can kind of maybe stuff Braylon Morgan a little bit. Can he throw the ball enough when he's getting single coverage on the outside to make some of these teams pay for gambling, trying to stop the run? And he showed that on Saturday night, and I thought that was super positive, getting ready to head in the league play. And like I said, you might have seen them unlock something else here with their 6'6", 250-pound Thanos they have out there, because if they can line this kid up also, not a ton of, he's your quarterback, so you're not going to want him to play a ton on defense, but in pass rush situations, you can trot him out there and line him up on the edge and just let him go hunt, because he's 6'6", 250. Like, he's built like an SEC defensive end. Why not let him go see what he can do and see if he can wreak some havoc for 8, 9, 10 snaps a game? So that was scary in itself, to see him be able to add that sort of dual threat aspect to his game. So, yeah, you're right, man. The Kings are the Kings, and they have maybe the biggest chess piece on the board that everybody in the rest of the city is going to have to deal with now that they're hopping back into city play. So, with that being said, right, we talk about them sort of reestablishing. All right, we're back in the city now. I hope you guys have fun the first half because we're back and we're ready to wreak havoc, right? We also know what Kennedy is going to do. We also know, like, North Hollywood kind of showed you, like, hey, we're the defending East Valley champs. Y'all can take that 0-3 start. Y'all can throw that out. Y'all can throw that baby out with the bathwater because look at what we've done. We damn near 100 points in 2 games. We right back at it, right? But the question is, we have so many teams here in the San Fernando Valley who are off to some ridiculous starts. We're talking about Panorama, Van Nuys, Taft, Sylmar, even San Fernando, even though they're scuffling a little, they scuffled and they lost their game, but they're still sitting at 4-2. We've got teams here who have gotten off to really good starts as we've kind of turned the corner to the second half of the year. Is there a team that has emerged that you deem now as a serious title threat that maybe you didn't see coming into the start of the year? Is there anybody who's piqued that interest or that intrigue?
We're talking league challenge. It's interesting. There's going to be some battles in those sets. Birmingham basically is telling everybody that they've locked up, West Valley again. Got to play the games, but they're sending a message, right? And that's what we've talked about, what they needed to do. Kennedy sent the message by doing what they did 2 weeks ago. North Hollywood saying that, hey, they're still. But if I'm talking about teams outside of just in their leagues, yeah, I'm looking at Van Nuys making a run in the playoffs, and they can probably do something. Panorama's a defending champ. They still got a lot of pieces that they can put into work. Don't sleep on an El Camino or a Sylmar or even Arleta putting it back together and getting a run. And I'm probably missing a couple right because I'm going off top. Taft, everything they put together when they get into playoffs, they're gonna see teams have been like, oh, you're not as tough as those we played before. So this season probably could be the best bet for us to have many of the 4, at least 2 or 3, as far as like city champs. And the best bet we've had probably since a couple years back when we had 3 with Birmingham, Granada, and Kennedy.
It is crazy to look at the Valley Mission, and if someone would have told us coming into the year, it's a real possibility that the Valley Mission literally takes Division 2, 3, and they might sneak a team into the D1 who's going to wreak some havoc if Kennedy doesn't end up in open. And even with how you've seen Kennedy play, it's not I've watched a lot of these teams at the top in the city. Even if Kennedy did right now, because if the playoffs started today, they're probably, because I think they're number 7 in the city right now. So they probably sitting at them and Birmingham would both make that open bracket. And with that quarterback, you telling me you couldn't see them going on the road to San Pedro in a rematch and maybe giving them hell? I think so. I think we always wax hyperbole about the fact that we're homers for our team. But I'm looking at the way that the Valley Mission just themselves have played. Forget about North Hollywood. Of course, North Hollywood is the defending East Valley champs. If things break right for them in the bracket, we can see them make a run too. They have everything they need. But I'm looking at even a San Fernando. If they end up in like in D2, I don't want to see them. If Canoga, we've already seen some of the wins that Canoga put up in D3. I'm actually expecting them to win a couple games in the D3 bracket if the playoffs started today. Like, we could literally have one league take 3 divisions in the postseason, and it would not be that far-fetched. So I think, when you're talking about serious title threats, I'm pleasantly shocked that it feels like we have 7 or 8 teams that realistically, if you told me they're lifting hardware, I'd be like, yeah, I believe it. Throwing everybody in the Valley Mission outside of Reseda, North Hollywood, even Monroe. That's a sneaky team. If they fall into D3, that's a problem to deal with the way that team plays. You can't even count out of Verdugo. They got some things to figure out, but there's talent there. We know there's talent there. This might be one of the more talent-rich seasons we've had in recent memory in terms of all 3 leagues having quality teams that could really make noise when we get into the postseason. And guess what? We're not even talking about Granada. I think they've sort of flown under the radar because the Stanleys are all going there. But we're looking at that machine and we're like, man, in D1, you got to stop that run offense. You got to stop that 4-headed monster they got when they running it at you constantly over and over and over again. So I think when talking about serious title threats, we got about like 8. Oh, and Taft. We didn't even talk about Nathan Swenson and Taft and what they're doing. That team's going to get in D1 and they're going to upset someone. So it's like, man, it is so stacked. And that's why it is so awesome to look forward to the second half of this year and know that we got so much stuff coming. And speaking of week 6 and now getting the ball rolling, this week 6 schedule is as stacked in terms of just high profile games that in recent memory because of how well all these teams are playing. And now we're starting to get into the nitty gritty. So let's run down the week 6 schedule, starting with Grant and Fulton. They're both 0-5, but someone's going to get their first win. So that's exciting for those programs. Verdugo hits the road to Monroe to see if they can put together a little win streak, if they can get their second straight, or if Monroe can improve to 4-2. Arleta at NoHo for NoHo's homecoming. Hey, we know how teams feel about ruining homecomings. And Arleta is, I don't know if that's the team I would necessarily want coming from my homecoming. Because if there's ever a surly bunch that could ruin a homecoming, it could be the Mustangs. But NoHo will have something to say about that.
That Arleta team, the returners from last year are salty. I was at that game against NoHo when they lost. They believed they should have won that game.
Absolutely.
NoHo took it from them. It was 100% earned. But when those clocks hit 4 zeros, both teams believed that they should have been the team to win, and one of them actually won. And so you want salty. That's a game I'm eyeballing.
Well, we're going to circle back to that in a second. Let me get back to this rundown. Number 15, Granada Hills on the road at Taft and Nathan Swenson. Can Taft make a statement first week out in the West Valley? That'd be a big win if they could pull it off against Granada at home. Poly's on the road at Chavez. Panorama, 5-1 on the road at number 8 Kennedy. And hey, if you are familiar with how these two teams tend to play each other every year, yes, we know Kennedy is one of the best teams in the city, but Panorama is just one of those teams. They know each other so well. Beltran and Cassidy know each other so well. These games are always dogfights no matter what the records are. So that's a big one. Selma on the road at Van Nuys. You talking about 2 up-and-coming programs with a chance to really make statements heading towards the postseason. That's a big one there. Elko at Birmingham. Like I said, it's an uphill challenge. This might feel like David and Goliath, but hey, like I always say every year, the Elko Birmingham game is special because that's the last team that's beaten Birmingham in a regular season city matchup. And then last but not least, we got Cleveland jumping into West Valley play with an opportunity to get things turned around on the road at Chatsworth. So with all those games, there's so much. So I'm going to change tacks a little bit this week. I'm not going to ask you what game intrigues you most, because honest to God, this slate is too stacked to ask a question like that, because like we always talk about, if we could split ourselves into 4, we'd be everywhere, especially on a week like this. But I do want to focus on 4 teams that'll hold your feet to the fire. Selmar's on the road at Van Nuys. Panorama's on the road at Kennedy. Arleta's on the road at NoHo. and Elko's on the road at Birmingham. All four, quite frankly, are underdogs in their own rights going on the road to play these teams. But all four of these teams on the road are quality teams. So, of those four teams, Sylmar, Panorama, Arleta, and Elko. If you had to bet, who has the best shot at pulling that road upset of these four teams?
Probably Arleta. They're going to play angry. And that's the only way they know how to play when they're winning. But I would not be surprised if Sylmar comes in. Even though I got a lot of faith in the way that Van Nuys program is running right now, Sylmar wouldn't surprise me at all. And we know Panorama plays Kennedy tough all the time. All the time. They seem to be like they were for a while almost like that Achilles foil in regular season play.
Mm-hmm.
But no, if I got to pick one, it's Arleta.
I'll almost rank them, right? Birmingham, I'm not expecting Elko to go in there. I know they're going to fight. They're going to play them tough. But like I said, at this point, man, it's something that of their stats that I'm going to, when I've been digging deeper into this Birmingham string of dominance, when we do the roundtable, I'll throw some stats at you guys about just how dominant this team has been. And that's why, for me, I put Elko on the list out of respect, but that's not one I'm expecting them to go in there and win. Panorama, yes, they absolutely have a chance they always have a chance. As long as Beltran's coaching and as long as that program is firing, they always got a shot. That's the respect that we give Panorama, especially with them being the defending city champ. But Kennedy is Kennedy. Diego Montes is a monster to deal with, especially at home when that dust get to flying and that atmosphere is raucous, right? So that takes me down to Sylmar and Arleta. I'm inclined. I wanna say Arleta, but the way NoHo has played the last 2 weeks, they scared the hell out of me. I don't want no parts of this team. It's almost as if a switch flipped, and they just it was like they woke up and they remembered exactly who they were last year, and the bullies are back. I think that might be a tough for Arleta to deal with. We know Hope and North Hollywood is one of those places that their homecoming always feels special. It's something about the environment at that school. Their homecoming always feels a little bit more special than some places. Now, not to throw any shade anywhere else, but that team plays well at homecoming. So I think I want to lean towards them continuing to keep it rolling. But it's something about Tim Tanner Jr. and the way that this kid is playing right now. He is a one-man wrecking machine. He is a one-man wrecking crew. And I think that they have a real chance to get in there. And I think that game is probably going to be a track meet because that's how Van Nuys wants to play. Van Nuys is not a team that wants to get down in the mud. That was what they kind of ran into trouble with Panorama in that city championship last year. They had played wide open for weeks, and then all of a sudden you got Panorama just trudging the ball at you down up and down the field, and it kind of took them out of their element. But this is the type of game that they're going to want to play. Let's roll the balls out. Let's damn near play 7-on-7. Let's go up and down the field. But that could play against them because if Carlos Herrera makes a mistake or two, if Sylmar can make them pay and turn that into points, we could be looking at last team with the ball wins that game. So if I'm going to look at the four teams, I think I'm going to go with Sylmar has the best shot at pulling the upset. So, but we'll leave that there, but I'm not going to let you get out of here without some predictions. All right. We talked about those, but they are still, like I said, this slate is so stacked with just interesting ball games for one reason or another. There's still plenty of more that we can lend a little prediction to. So let's start with Grant at Fulton. These are two teams that are scuffling. These are two teams that have proud recent histories in terms of what the programs have been. Yes, we're on a little bit of hard times right now, but we have no doubt that these coaches will bring those programs back. But it's ebbs and flows in high school football. Sometimes you graduate a lot of talent. Sometimes you got to get numbers back in. But this is an opportunity for both of these teams to kind of put a win on the board and maybe kind of change the atmosphere. So Grant at Fulton, who you got?
Taking Fulton. It's a home game. they're used to playing with the numbers they have. Grant is adjusting to, having a smaller size program this season. Fulton.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think I'm going Fulton as well. The conditions are sort of like you said. To piggyback of what you said, it's just something they're used to dealing with, coming from 8-man, jumping back into 11-man. I mean, this is a team that had success last year, and they didn't have a ton of numbers in the program. This feels like a week for them to kind of just erase some of the bad taste out of the beginning of the year and maybe sort of reset with some winnable games down the stretch for them. So I think Fulton take the win there. All right, let's head over to Woodland Hills. Granada Hills goes on the road to Taft. This could also be a sneaky game of the week sort of contest here. I think the offenses will be on full display in this game. Granada Hills on the road at Taft. Give me a winner. Who do you think's winner coming out with the dub here?
Kind of want to go underdog, but no, I think it's Taft. I think Taft takes it. Nothing against the way Granada Hills has put things back together, the way they're rolling, the way that run game is going, but that offense is so high powered at Taft, so high powered, and minus the Eagle Rock game, they shut everybody down in the second half. So they figure you out and then they shut you down. So that's all I needed to see for that. That's going that way.
Yeah, the key to that game is third and fourth down for Taft. If you can keep Granada, if you can win on first and second down and make it harder for them to kind of pick up those first downs, because that's the thing, Granada's not a team that punts. As long as it's not 4th and 15, they're just going to line it up and run it at you anyway and try to break one. That could play into Taft's hands if they can get just a couple of stops, because I do think it's going to be difficult for Granada to stop this Taft offense. This offense is legit. It is not a product of the teams they faced, because like I said, even in that loss to Eagle Rock, they still put up plenty of points. It was just Eagle Rock's offense was rolling, and then it was hard for them to get stops. But if this team can, like you said, when this team has figured out how to stop people, their offense continues to put up points and put up yardage. So I think that plays into their advantage. I think that this team can get 1 or 2 stops, and if they do that, they can come away with a comfortable victory there. So I'm going to go lean Taft as well. So let's look at the East Valley. Let's hop over to the East Valley. You got Verdugo Hills on the road at Monroe. We know the type of coaching that is involved with the Verdugo Hills program. Yes, the results sort of haven't been there, but we know this is a tough outfit with some talent there. They go on the road to a senior late Monroe team. Yes, it hasn't been as smooth for Monroe of recent note, but we know this team is a fighter, so this game should be a dogfight. Verdugo at Monroe. Who you got here?
This is one that's probably going to burn me, because I've been burned by similar predictions in this kind of matchup before. But what the heck? I'm going to go with it. I'm going with Verdugo Hills.
Yeah, there's always a game on the schedule every year, especially in the East Valley. The East Valley tends to have these games where it's like, okay, this team turned it over on the goal line. This team had an opportunity and threw an interception. This feels like one of those games where we're going to look up and it's like 8-7 in the fourth quarter, and it's just like whoever can just kind of gut out one more drive kind of maybe wins by a field goal, right? This game has 10-8, 12-10 written all over it. And man, I think I kind of like what Monroe is doing. Not that I don't think that Verdugo Hills can win this game. They absolutely can. But I think Monroe has shown that this is a spot that I think we might be able to trust them in to be able to hold the fort at home, even in a tough, gritty contest. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Monroe. And last but not least, an important game for both programs kicking off the West Valley, because we know how hard it is. The wins are hard to come by in the West Valley. You don't get that many opportunities, especially when you know you're going to have to deal with Birmingham and you're going to have to deal with Elko. And no matter what the circumstance, those teams are hard to beat, right? So when you're talking about playing the others, you got to get the opportunity. You got to get those wins when those opportunities present itself. So Cleveland at 1-4 on the road at 1-4 Chatsworth. Who comes away with the victory here?
I don't have too much debate on this one. Nothing against the Chancellors. But the way Cleveland has been playing and the grit and determination and what they've been through in the first few weeks, I think they take it.
Yeah, I tried to play up the drum a little bit. It's Cleveland's taking this one. Listen, we know, like I said, every 1-4 is not built the same. Look at the 5 opponents that Cleveland has faced. They went out and they scheduled tough, and I think that they're going to get in the West Valley in a couple of these games in the West Valley, and particularly this one might be an opportunity for them to beat up on somebody who's kind of hitting a program that's kind of hitting the reset button a little bit, right? In Chatsworth, new head coach, new personnel on that they're working in. This feels like an opportunity, even though they're no slouch. Like I said, they played Sylmar tough until Sylmar pulled away in the fourth quarter. So Cleveland's got to go in there ready to work. They can't just walk in there thinking they're just going to win, because you can find yourself down on the scoreboard, because Chatsworth is still the kind of team that'll pop one on you. So with that being said, though, I do think that Cleveland is going to walk away with the victory here, get to 2-4, get the West Valley slate off to a good start, and then we'll roll on from there. So before we wrap up, though, like we've been telling you guys, we're following on the girls' flag season. It is still a young sport, but one of the things that we are very, very, very excited about is that we do have teams in our backyard who are making noise in the city section and look like real contenders to take home some hardware. So, Archibald, you got an update you want to enlighten the people with? The floor is yours.
Oh, very, very much so. And it goes right back, and I'm going to start right up at the top of the city section rankings. Panorama continuing to do it. They're at 18-0 now. 4-0 in league. I don't really think there's too much standing in their way of running away with this. The thing that gets me is when I look everywhere else, right? Verdugo Hills 9-3, 4-0. Last time we talked, they had 2 losses. Well, they only went out and lost to the number 2 team in the city. And remember how we talked about they've only lost to teams that look like they're going to be playing open division playoffs. And that's what happened when they lost to Eagle Rock, and they weren't blown out. That was a close enough game. They were in it enough. And that tells me this is a team that will be one to, look out for come playoffs. And take that into the West Valley. We had looked at Cleveland pretty extensively because they were off to a hot start and they were doing really, really good. Now they kind of slipped to number 18. They lost to Birmingham, who, mind you, was in the finals not too long ago. They played really, really well. Not the finals, they were in the semis. But that's a good program. And that's a program that's been put together piece by piece. But what we haven't talked about is the defending city champs, El Camino. They're putting it together. They're looking to get rolling. And we're recording this on Monday night. On Wednesday, they're playing Cleveland. So that is going to be huge. Because that not only sets up the trajectory of who can control West Valley, but now you're looking at how do the rest of these city section rankings break down in that critical part of that D1 bottom of open. It's going to be exciting. I mean, there's nothing but excitement when these girls take the field, and we're here for it.
Absolutely, we are. And it is, and like I said, it's exciting. It's a young sport, but we have so many good teams. We have so many talented young ladies who have taken the initiative and taken the bull by the horns and have really sort of pushed this young sport, the youngest of the sports in the high school scene to the forefront. And we have some really good teams, and we're going to continue to follow those teams and tell you their story as we do every week, as we tell you all the stories of our teams here in the San Fernando Valley. You know, we work diligently, we work hard. Make sure you go to valleysportstelegram.com. Our stories are being put up daily. Make sure you go and you check. We have the football power list. We have the volleyball power list. The 3rd edition is live now. By the time you're hearing this, the volleyball power list and the football power list for this week's are live. The Valley Gyms are coming, where you will find out all the games that you need to see coming this weekend. Make sure you go to our social media. Make sure you go to our Instagram. Follow us on Threads. Go on our Twitter. We are letting you know everything that's going down. We give you updates there as well. And make sure you're following us, because we have a roundtable coming this week where the senior staff will give you their thoughts on what the football season has been so far. And me and Arch Rivera are going to hit you guys with a volleyball update. Make sure you're looking out for that coming in the next day or so, where we're going to catch you up on everything that's been going on the volleyball scene as well. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. We got good teams spread across the big 3 leagues and the smaller 3 leagues as well. So we're going to catch you up on all of that. So, but as usual, man, thank you guys for supporting. If you're watching this, leave a like, subscribe, comment. We're going to keep bringing you around the valley and tell you everything you need to see every week, every time that something happens that you need to be a part of. So, for Archer Versarian and your boy Kenny Hodges, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.